Grab your popcorn, kick back and relax, because it is time for some more Karnage. So, in today's video, we're going to be doing a guide for Captain Everspark. More specifically, her ability, the Universal Remote. So you can see mine is level 3. So we're going to be discussing that ability a little bit. So let's just attack a base and we'll discuss a little bit about what it does and its sort of uses and stuff like that. So, of course we had to get a base where the buildings were like 10,000 miles away. Because, first build problems, am I right? So, let's attack a building. Okay, so you can see she hacked the building. It died very quickly, unfortunately, but the premise is you take over the building starts firing at other buildings, and it fights for you, right? So, there's two use cases for this. In operations, you'll see it used pretty much how that just happened. So, you take over a building that you need out, so like say a shock launcher or a rocket or something like that. And you hack that building, and then if there's enough buildings around it, like you can see, there's a lot of one-shots around here, so they're going to do a lot of damage very quickly. Although their fire rate's very slow, they just do a lot of damage, and it's quick death for that building, essentially. So, that building is going to die real quick, so you can actually use this to destroy key buildings you want out. So, say, for example, you're a relatively low-level player, playing in a group with, like, a lot of Zuka players, or AZ, as it's called, and you don't really have the statues just yet, or even the experience, say, to really be doing the hits that they're doing, and helping out as much as you'd like to be. But you still want to be an active member of their task force. You don't want to become inactive just because you don't have the same statues they do, right? So, one option you do have is to use Everspark and do an opener. So, use Everspark, hack a building that they really need out to help out with the next attacker, and then maybe you drop like Hookah or whatever it is, and you sort of do a bit of clearing for some stuff that'll make their life a bit easier. So, that's just an easier way for doing operation hits. But you don't need to level up this ability to do that, because you're not really doing anything, you know what I mean? Like, when you upgrade this ability, it only upgrades the amount of damage the building does when it hits something. So, if I look at, let's see, is this a beachfront? I think this is a beachfront. Okay, this base is perfect. So say I drop AZ, not AZ. Let's say I drop RZCM, right? Which is Cryoneers, Rifleman, Zuka, Medic. Say I use that strat, I smoke them up to the top right, clear forward, I take out the rocket, I take out the shock, I make a nice little dead spot at the core here. Let's say this hot pot didn't exist, or I've killed it already, whatever. But yeah, so I've got a nice little dead spot here. But unfortunately, there's a mortar with range at the HQ, so any of passive critters that Everspark produces is going to die very quick. There's also a rocket there, a shock launcher there, and a flamethrower here, which is slightly out of range. But a lot of high-level bases will have it in the middle anyway. So let's just say there was something splash damage related that did have more range. But yeah, so this will destroy Everspark's critters. Your one-shot buildings that are behind the HQ, which will generally be on the corners for ice bases, especially because this is a problem that will arise like 13 to 1400s plus, which are people that are leaderboard pushing. Because your passive critters are dying so quick, the one-shot buildings start taking out your troops, and because you've lost so many during the attack, because the base has a shield on it, although this one doesn't, it just sort of takes so much time to take out the core that the one-shot buildings just kill your troops, pretty much. So, this is a real problem. So, one way that you can counter this is by using Everspark's hacking ability. Because Everspark is either going to hack the splash damage defense that's doing you the most harm by destroying your passive critters, or it's going to do one better and take over the one-shot building, which in this case will be a boom cannon, which generally will actually be a boom cannon. So, because there's not a lot of buildings around it at this point left to destroy it, it stays alive for a pretty long time. So if you've got this ability maxed out or upgraded pretty highly, it does so much damage that it will destroy the building next to it, which will be the splash damage defense that will be causing you all this harm. So you're going to wind up destroying something you want destroyed, which is great. So it's actually worth upgrading if you're doing VP pushing in this manner. If you're not, and you're only using this for operations, not worth it. Keep it as level 1. Focus on something else. So now we've discussed some of its use cases, like how to use it, what it does, that sort of stuff. Now we can start getting into the nitty gritty. Let's start looking at some tricks here. So, to understand really how Everspark works, which is generally how I do all my guides, we're going to look at how her targeting works. So, how her targeting works is if there's nothing damaged, she sort of targets like a Zuko or any other troop. So if there's nothing damaged, she targets like whatever's closest to her, which isn't a very reliable manner because you don't really know how she's going to park around the flare. So this isn't a reliable means. But if there's stuff damaged, the health bar is treated as a percentage. So regardless of how much health it actually has left, it's treated as a percentage. So, for example, this boom cannon is damaged. We'll say, purely for argument's sake, that it has 70% of its total health left. 70%. So look what happens if I press this barrage on the machine gun far away. Hopefully it does some damage, but not enough. Ooh, that did a little bit too much. That's awkward. Let's damage something else. We'll park that way, hopefully it doesn't do much. Okay, yeah, that'll do. So you can see, we'll say for example that this cannon has, let's say 85% of its total health left. If I park Everspark in between this, say like next to this machine gun here, it's going to target the boom cannon if I try to hack it, not the cannon. Because the cannon has 85% of its total health left, where the boom cannon has like 70%, say. So because the boom cannon has only 70% left, and that's the lower one, it's gonna go after that. Now, it's probably true that the cannon has, if we were looking at the actual number of health that it has, the cannon probably has more at this point. But that's not what we're looking at. We're just looking at it as a percentage. So, assuming that I got that right, like how much health it actually does have, because I'm sort of just guesstimating at the present moment. Let's hope we are out of range of that machine gun. Yep, we are. Okay. So you can see that it just tried to hack. We've seen that little targeting symbol around the boom cannon. So it did actually target the boom cannon, and that was because it was sort of, you know what I mean? It was sort of the lower one in terms of its total percentage of health it had left. It only had like 70% left, where this one had a lot more, and that was quite obvious. So that's how the targeting works. So now that we understand how the targeting works, we're going to start looking at some ways we can sort of use this to our advantage. So before we start jumping into too much, I want to show you a little trick on deploying. So you can actually deploy without even using a smoke and you can hack something that's on the beach. This can be used in operations. You can use it on player bases as well, which is how we're going to be using it right now. Although I have hookah loaded, this is something that you might see for a tank medic player, because you can hack a boom cannon on the beach, keep Everspark alive, and then deploy your troops and go on with the rest of your day. So, I'm going to start off by deliberately failing. And I want you to see if you can figure out why it fails. So I'm going to deploy Everspark, and I'm just pressing that ability as quickly as I can. But you can see Everspark died, didn't get the hack off. Didn't even try to get the hack off. So what we do is where the deployment flag deploys, so like where you press on the screen to deploy Everspark, if you press that flag too far, it will walk to the flag, and then we'll try to do its ability. So by putting that flag so far up, I screwed myself. So how we're going to fix this is we're going to put the deployment flag as close to the boat as we can, without actually putting it behind it. So I'll show you what happens if I put the deployment flag behind it. So we're going to press pretty much right on the shore here. Well, I pressed the ability too late there, but Everspark was going to die regardless. So I actually pressed, like, not where the troops come out of the boat, but like near my gunboat area. I pressed down there. So what Everspark does is she walks backwards a little bit towards your gunboat, and then walks up again. And the time it takes her to do this, you've wasted so much time that the boom cannon is locked in on you and will fire before you get the ability off. So this is actually a problem. So the correct way of doing it is you need to put the flag slightly in front of where the landing craft is going to deploy. So I use the rocks on the shore here as a visual guide to help me. So you can see like the edge of these two rocks here on the shore. So I'll put it on the top right hand corner of the screen near the end battle. That little thing there. So I use that as a guide to help me. So I'll put a... So we want to go for... We'll zoom out a little bit. So we want to put it in line for this boom cannon so we can get the hack off. So we'll put it about here. Ooh, see, I put it a little bit to the right there, and that screwed me. But we did get the ability off. It's just our hero died too quickly. So we'll try that again. So you can see this does take a bit of practice. It does take a bit of practice to get it right. So we're going to put it about here. Spam the ability. There we go. See, we got the ability off. We'd put the smoke down. And, you know, we'd flare to the side. Deploy our troops. So on and so forth. So, that's how you do that. So you can actually deploy without using smokes. Get an ability off. In operations, you might find something that has maybe like a few rockets on the shore. Or, you know, maybe like there are a few bases. I know them by layout. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. Because I go by like how it looks usually. But there are a few operations where this can be really useful. Machiner actually is a pretty low level base that I see that would come in very, very handy for a low level player to help open up. That's something that I can come to mind with. So that's how you can, a little trick you can use to deploy without using smokes. That's not something that everyone knows. So now we're going to look at how many buildings we can actually hack without using any smokes in between hacks, which is something not a lot of people know as well. So I'm going to destroy those mines and be very careful not to damage anything, because this is going to be important to the next point I'm going to make. So I'm going to smoke Everspark in between these buildings, just because, you know, why not? We did lose our delay there, but it's not going to be important to the next point I'm about to make anyway. So I'm going to spam the ability as quickly as I can, get as many hacks off as I can. So you can see I was charged for the third hack, but no, the third hack was not actually used. This is an annoying glitch that I don't like with heroes. It should only charge me for an ability that actually gets used. That actually happens. Not something that I get charged for and never happens. Because the hero died before it got to be used. I think that's complete BS if I'm being honest. But you can see that I only got 2 buildings hacked there. So a little trick that you can use, because you can actually get 3 buildings hacked without smoking, is you can see that if you rewatch that, I let Everspark pick the first building that was being hacked. And that's a problem. You don't ever let Everspark pick the first building that's hacked. Even if you damage the building with an artillery. Because Everspark is essentially picking her target herself, it's like a second or 2 slower. So if you use a flare after you've used... So like I pressed the hack ability, she's now said, okay, I'm going after the machine gun, whatever it is that she picks, and then I use a flare to pick something else, then she's going to do that hack a little bit quicker, and this is going to buy you enough time to get all 3 hacks off. So I'm going to go like this. Oh no. So I lost the thing there. We're going to put a third smoke because I'm not sure how she's going to spread outwards. Very, very, very sloppy. And I want to target these 2 buildings after the hack. What the hell? Oh wow, I screwed up. I pressed the hack and it didn't register. I got the click glitch where you click the screen and it didn't register. Okay. Scratch that, we will try again. And this time we'll do a better job because why not? Let's flare there. We'll deliberately lose our delay. No, we didn't, even though we peaked. Because logic. Okay, we did not get the click glitch this time. So we'll hack these 2 as our second targets. So you can see there, I got 3 hacks off. So I pressed the hack ability, I flare the building I wanted, because Everspark was closer to the boom cannon that time, she decided to target the boom cannon. I dropped the artillery on the next 2 buildings I wanted to target, so like for the second and third hack, and yeah, she targeted the buildings that she needed to hack next, which is good. So yeah, that's how you pretty much how you do it, and that's how you take advantage of like how she targets. So if I redid that, right, and I said, oh, there's a lot of mines around, I want to smoky hookah this for the finish, but I'm a little worried that these mines are going to kill my Zookas at the kill spot as they spread out. So let's just drop a barrage here, take out the mines, you know, oh, I need to hack these buildings, rah rah rah, so I drop artillery shells. If that barrage had have kept that sniper alive, it would have completely messed me up. Because I would have had a sniper that I didn't want hacked, but it would have had been so low in health that it would have messed up my targeting for Everspark. So like, my point here is, if you need to barrage or crit or something to clear some mines, like, don't ever do that. You do your Everspark part of your attack first, then you focus on that stuff, and then you deploy your troops. Just as like a word of warning, so like you don't screw up anything. And my game disconnected because Australia's internet is so amazing. I love it so much. Yeah, so that's how you can hack 3 buildings. So that's already something that not everyone knows. The last part of this guide, because we're nearing on 20 minutes right now, so I want to get this done, is shock blasters. When you're in range of a shock blaster, it continuously shocks you. This does affect how many hacks you can get off. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring Everspark in. We're going to bring her up the front, but she's going to die because I'm a bit of a dumb person, because I don't want to swear, because let's just keep things PG just for the hell of it, because YouTube is amazing right now with YouTube policies and copyright strikes and all that interesting stuff, as Zmot would say. So let's just do that. Bring Everspark here, go up, and because we're trying to rush, we're sort of failing a little bit. Which happens. But I think if you guys are subbed to my channel for guides, you guys are probably already expecting this to be long, relatively. So now we'll try to get 3 hacks off. So let's just see what happens. So we got charged for 2, but because of the Shock Blaster, so we got charged for 3, but we only got 2 off. So because of that Shock Blaster being there, even though we just did everything right, it screwed us. We could not get 3. So that's a guide, I guess. So if you have a Shock Blaster in range, if what you want to hack, don't hack. Don't do this tactic. This was a tactic on player bases, although I did explain to you how it's best used, like in the end of an RZCM attack or something like that, where you can hack what's behind the core. Alternatively, you can use that for Tank Medic. I think that's called TRM, because it has a boat of riflemen in it, which is generally how the higher levels use that strat. But yeah, Master Morty was using this in the early days of Heroes, when like all the glitches were present. So like he would drop it like where this boom cannon is on screen, and he would hack both shock launchers and let Everspark die, because the passive spawn rate of the critters wasn't done correctly. So like it didn't really offer as much of a benefit to staying alive as what you'd think it would. So pretty much it didn't really matter if she was alive or dead. It was, you'd get more value out of her by taking out some key threats, which really isn't the case anymore. But yeah, so that strat where you triple hack is going to be something you see more in operations than player bases, if I'm being honest. But yeah, all good information. Hopefully I managed to teach you something that you didn't already know, or you know, a tip or trick that maybe you found helpful or helped you save some GBE in one of your attacks, whether it be player base or operation related. So hopefully this has helped you guys. I do apologize for this being so long. I was trying not to make it so long, but this is like the 3rd time I've tried to record this, because my recording setup was really messed up from trying to upgrade it, which didn't really pan out. Story for another day. Yeah, so hopefully this helped. If it did, smack the thumbs up button. Tell me what you thought in those comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.